There were a lot of changes involving Big Blue this past offseason, and as a result, a lot of optimism is brewing in East Rutherford this year. Should there be optimism, and if so, how much? We'll take a look at the upcoming New York Giants season in our 2018 NFL preview. Let's start by taking a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense. The biggest story, in my opinion, of the Giants offseason was the hiring of new head coach Pat Shurmur, who comes over from the Minnesota Vikings. This will be the second go-around for the 53-year-old head coach, whose first stint as the head guy in Cleveland back in 2011 and 2012 didn't quite go according to plan. There are a lot of reasons why he's set up for potentially more success this time. One of the main ones is that the Giants are a much more stable organization from top to bottom, and second, he's taking over a much more talented team than he did in Cleveland. Shurmur is an offensive guy, so it'll be interesting to see what differs from the last head coach that was an offensive guy here and the guy that he's replacing, Ben McAdoo. The other major storyline surrounding the team is whether or not star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. will get paid. To me, it should be a no-brainer to pay the explosive wideout. Outside of last year's 4-game injury-riddled season, Beckham has averaged over 1,300 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns each year. It's not just the catches, yardage, and touchdowns that are impressive. It's the great sense of timing of knowing when the team needs a big play and actually being the guy to make that play. That's what makes him worth his weight in gold. He's coming off of an ankle injury and looks to have no ill effects from that injury, so we should see the same old Beckham come regular season. It would be wise for the Giants to get the deal done prior to the start of 2018. New defensive coordinator James Bettcher, who comes over from the Arizona Cardinals, is bringing with him his 3-4 defense. Some may ask whether or not the Giants personnel is a fit for this defense, but with the way teams are nowadays, most coaches aren't married to a scheme per se, and you'll see a lot of hybrid looks anyway because of the offensive personnel that takes the field. So yes, you'll see both 3-4 and 4-3 looks. What makes the Bettcher hiring intriguing is that he's very aggressive in when and how he applies pressure. This is radically different from what the Giants fans saw from previous defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. So from that perspective and what they currently have on the roster, it'll put guys like Olivier Vernon, Avery Moss, and rookie Lorenzo Carter in more optimum situations to generate pressure. Bettcher's defense were amongst the best in the league as far as applying pressure is concerned during his 3 years in the desert. Which Eli Manning will the Giants get in 2018? Big Blue passed on the opportunity to take a quarterback high in this year's draft because of the belief in number 10 and the belief in how many productive years he has left in his career. Manning enters his 15th season in the NFL and will be 37 years old when he takes the field. Now, the Giants hope by putting a game breaker in rookie Saquon Barkley behind him in the backfield will give him exactly what he needs for him to get back to the 2016 version where we saw him throw for over 4,000 yards and 26 touchdowns. Regardless of what's going on around him, the Giants need Manning to play consistently at a high level in order for them to have success this season. One of the major reasons for optimism for the 2018 New York Giants is that there is no shortage of explosive options on offense. On paper, you have talents like Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram, and we've seen them perform off the paper as well. And when you add in sensational rookie running back Saquon Barkley, and your offense has a threat to score from anywhere on the field with anybody. This is why many Big Blue faithful are excited about the upcoming season. And speaking of that rookie running back, to me, that's the part that has a chance to really unlock this offense this year. Saquon Barkley's talent is on par with that of Le'Veon Bell and what he brings to the table as both a runner and also as a receiver. Don't listen to folks that create numbers to try to tell you that the running back position is devalued. When the Giants made the pick of Barkley, they not only added a legit game breaker in the backfield, but made life a lot easier for the offensive line, for Eli Manning, and the rest of the receivers. Health permitting, he's going to have a phenomenal career with Big Blue, and the Giants haven't had a back of this talent since Tiki Barber. You can also be very optimistic about the defensive front seven. Quiet as kept, the Giants still have some dogs up front, even without Jason Pierre-Paul. They'll be stout along the defensive line with Snacks Harrison and Delvin Tomlinson. The addition of Kareem Martin was a very underrated one, and having guys like Olivier Vernon and rookie Lorenzo Carter on the edge is impressive, and look for B.J. Goodson to blossom on the inside as well. This will be a textbook case of the front end helping out the back end. And I say that because that ties directly into one of the biggest causes for concern for the Giants, the cornerback depth. As base starters with Eli Apple, Janoris Jenkins, I think the Giants are straight. The depth on the perimeter is where I have some questions. That's where you'll see the biggest battles take place in training camp. They brought in William Gay via free agency, but he's entering his 12th season in the league and will have to fend off guys like Dante Dion and Curtis Riley, amongst others. Incumbent starters at safety, Landon Collins and Darian Thompson, are very good players. The safety depth may be a bit more stable as Andrew Adams stepped up big last year, and free agent Michael Thomas was an underrated signing as well this offseason, coming over from the Miami Dolphins. Another cause for concern would be the offensive line, and not because of talent, because I think they've done a solid job of addressing that with Nate Solder and the drafting of Will Hernandez. But we all know for an offensive line to be effective, it's about how quickly that new group gels and is able to work together as one. There's also some reshuffling going on with Flowers moving to the right side, Hernandez and Patrick Omea battling for one of the guard spots, John Jerry figures to man the other guard spot. So there's going to be some things that have to still be ironed out, which is why there's still a slight concern heading into the preseason. Now, here are some quick thoughts as the Giants enter training camp. I believe both Sterling Shepard and Darian Thompson are primed for breakout seasons. Both players are entering their third year in the league. Shepard has quietly been equally as dependable as Odell Beckham in critical situations. He's able to play inside or outside, can excel versus man or zone. And this year, we could finally see him crack that 1,000-yard barrier for the first time in his career. Thompson was known as a ball hawk coming out of college, and with the new aggressive defensive scheme in place with James Betcher, the 6'2", 208-pound free safety should find more opportunities to sit back and play takeaway, which will produce his first Pro Bowl season. Some training camp surprises to keep an eye on, starting with tight end Ryan O'Malley. He was a late addition to the roster toward the end of the season and has good all-around game. He shows proficiency as a blocker and also as a receiver. There's going to be a battle for that third and fourth tight end spot on the roster, so look for O'Malley to turn some heads with this play this summer. Josh Banks is another player to keep an eye on. He was starting to flash last year in training camp before getting injured and placed on IR. He's a very versatile and athletic 290-pounder that can serve multiple roles up front and is best suited to play in this defense as opposed to last year. So he should pick right up where he left off last summer. And the two rookie impact players to me are no-brainers, and that's Saquon Barkley and linebacker Lorenzo Carter. And we've talked ad nauseum about Barkley's potential impact. So let's look at Carter, who shockingly fell to the third round. He's a very strong run defender and has a lot of upside as a pass rusher because he wasn't asked to do much of it at Georgia. I think he could step in on the outside and be a solid starter from day one. And taking a look at the fantasy impact player on this team, I think you can't go wrong with either Saquon Barkley or Odell Beckham Jr., but Barkley gets a slight nod because of the fact that he doesn't have to work for his opportunities like a receiver does. The Giants can just turn around and hand him the football and watch him rack up the fantasy points for your team. The road to the Super Bowl for the Giants goes as follows. If Saquon Barkley is as good as advertised, then this offense could easily be a top 5 offense in the NFL, which would mean the Giants are playing winning football. Even if it isn't top 5 and Barkley is still as good as advertised, the end result will be exactly the same. The Giants also need their offensive line to be an asset, not a liability. This has nothing to do with the ground game, as a talent like Barkley supersedes adequate offensive line play, but more so for Eli Manning, who's not the most mobile QB there is and needs optimal protection to stay effective. And finally, the special teams has to be special. The Giants missed way too many kicks last year. The return game wasn't as dynamic as it should be, and the coverage units struggled as well. So they have to play much better special teams this year if they want to have a chance to get to the big game come February. I have the Giants finishing 4th in the NFC East. I believe 8-8 to 9-7 is where I'm leaning with this team. Offensively, I think they'll be dynamic and definitely fun to watch, but I still worry about the uncertainty of Eli Manning in terms of what we're going to see. Plus, the secondary still has some wrinkles to iron out from a nickel and depth perspective. So that's it for our 2018 NFL season team preview. Be sure to follow me on all of our social media accounts. Also, check out and subscribe on iTunes to Football Gameplan Podcast, and to find other NFL team previews for our 2018 NFL season kickoff, visit the YouTube channel at youtube.com/footballgameplan and click that subscribe button.